Hello, in this episode, Jonathan has a beer and gets handsy with Martha, gets an eyeful of Lana, and Pete pulls out his piece and shows it to Chloe. This is the Smallville Chronicles.
Somebody save me. Let your warm hands break right through.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Smallville Chronicles. This week, our episode is Nicodemus. I'm Lou Gonzalez, and with me, as always, is Alan Muir.
Man, this episode was like half good, half bad. Or not, it was half good, half cheesy.
Oh, it was an interesting concept and then got ruined by early 2000s oversexed teens.
Especially that Lana Lux scene.
Yeah, like I was saying before, this brought me flashbacks to my freshman year of high school. Because I think she's like, of all the people in the show, I actually looked up, she's only like, she's like 5 years older than me, so if I was a freshman, she would have been like 21 when the show was going on at this point in real life. So she is pretty young still. But man, like, if you're trying to think of these characters as freshmen in high school, this is like a very scandalous episode.
I don't think you could do it. I don't think you could do this episode.
Oh, absolutely not.
On any show today.
Especially because it's like just her. Like,
yeah.
Jonathan gets like horny with Martha, like I said, but not anywhere near. Like, she kisses and is all up on Whitney and like touching other dudes in the hallway, then the whole Clark scene in the pool, and then with Lex with the whipped cream.
Yeah.
It is completely, like you said, in today's, like, there's no way you could pull this off. Otherwise, like, the other stuff going around this episode is really interesting and does, like, conceptually, like, the idea of what you could use kryptonite to do was something I never really thought of, and I'm not sure how much they ever did before.
Also, something for earlier in the season pays off here in this episode, at the ending at least.
Oh, yes, Nicodemus.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, like, a bunch of little Easter eggs in this episode, too, which were really funny. I'm sure you caught the very over-the-top first one, right?
I don't think so. Which one?
The first one is, so in the beginning of the episode, we see angry dude driving with a flower next to him. He's driving, he's yelling on the phone, trying to get Lionel Luthor, and the Dukes of Hazzard. Exactly, yeah. So that was really funny, and you know, it was a great idea, and especially like with the driving they do, and when he like kind of whips the truck around, so they like the guy's chasing him, honking his horn, and then he like pit maneuvers Jonathan, and then crashes his car. I thought Jonathan's reaction was hilarious, though. He was just like, whoa. Like, he had such a flat reaction to a pickup truck flipping over in the air, very Dukes of Hazzard style. Unless that was another callback to the show of, like, what his character would do in Dukes of Hazzard. But it's just very funny. It was just so, like, oh, that's happening. Like, just so, well. But then when he like, turns the truck and, like, kind of slides out of the car, except that he has to actually unbuckle his seatbelt, and it, like, stops him from jumping out so fast. Like, it was a crazy, like, kind of move, and it looked like he's the one that actually did that, because it didn't look like there were any cuts. It looked like he, like, slid the truck and then just got out. So I'm sure he had a decent amount of driving experience, you know, in Dukes of Hazzard, but he could pull off some of those driving moves.
Well, they jumped the General Lee in, like, what, every episode?
Every episode.
With that slow-mo, with that pause in the middle, like, how the Duke Boy's gonna get out of this one?
Yep. I can't remember what I heard it on, but at some point, there was, like a petition to stop the show because they were destroying so many
cars.
I can't remember. Yeah, but it was the specific car because it was like a classic muscle car. It was of the time, but like they were still like destroying all of them. But we do get some interesting here. This is so basically this guy, angry car driver guy, who we learn is James Beals, is trying to get to Lionel Luthor. They don't explicitly say it. I don't think maybe Lex says it later on, but that he is working for Lionel.
Yeah. Well, Lex says he's working for Lionel, but Lex had him go to Hamilton's lab.
Yeah, but he didn't know he was working for Lionel at that point.
Yeah.
So basically, Jonathan pulls a Clark and pulls this guy out of the truck and throws him over his shoulder and walks away, which is completely not what you would want to do with someone who was just in a major car accident. They're not supposed to like move their neck and back around like that. So I just thought that was like a funny thing. I was like, oh, this is totally stuff he should not be doing.
It was the early 2000s. What are you going to do?
I know. But basically, he lays him down.
Times were simpler.
We get to see another car explosion because they need to give us at least one. It's a minimum.
Yeah.
And
you gotta fill that quota.
And we see a random flower pop up out of the ground and then, like...
Okay,
Jurassic Park style spit in Jonathan's face.
I immediately thought it was Star Trek
Oh, okay.
when that flower spits into Spock, and him and Kirk have that fight in the transporter room.
Okay. I guess maybe because the plants were so comically animated in this episode.
Oh my god.
They were like so animated. They almost had more animation than Joe Morton.
It actually got to a certain point where I thought when Lana was driving Lex's car, I thought the car was CG because it could have been just the way it was shot. But it looked like they didn't want to risk her driving or messing up that car.
Oh yeah, I was like, ooh, they're going to destroy this Porsche. And then when it like pulled up, I was like, oh wait, it's like perfectly fine.
Yeah, it just got some mud on it.
Yeah. No, they destroy so many cars. They must have like the best car drivers in the business for their show this season. So after the flower sprays him, we have our intro. Then we cut to Dr. Hamilton at Luther Mansion to report that something was stolen from him by the guy named Beals, who we don't know is the guy in the truck, but after trying to help him with some equipment, and basically tells him that he has brought back the Nicodemus flower from extinction. It's been extinct for over 100 years using meteor fragments to irradiate dormant seeds. And Lex is like, this isn't what I told you I wanted to do. And he's like...
Yeah, he wanted to see the effects of the meteorite on people, not flowers, or other organisms.
Yeah, he kind of calls it like his side projects or something, Lex tells him. But it does make sense from like a scientific point. Like, well, you would start with something else before you moved over to like mammals. So I kind of get the idea, but I don't know. We get more of this when we see them, like, because they meet like 3 times in this episode.
Yeah.
So now we cut to Clark calling out for his parents, and he turns the corner and he sees Martha like up on the counter and Jonathan like in between her legs. She's like straddling him, and he's like does the exact thing. It's actually like pretty good thing by what's his name that plays Clark, where he's just like, oh my god, and like turns around and he's like and then Jonathan, I actually really love because he has to play such a different character in this episode because he only gets to really be the Jonathan we know for like 2 seconds in the car chase and then at the very end.
Yeah, and I think this is the only time where he actually gets affected by anything.
Well, he got mind affected, but we didn't really get to see it. It was kind of off camera in the handshake, the hug episode.
Well, no, I mean something like this that changes his personality.
Oh yeah. Trying to think if he ever gets mind controlled later on. I don't remember anything specifically.
Yeah, because I remember season 10 in the Kent episode, he was a complete 180 of what.
Well, that's like the other Earth Kent, right?
That's Earth 2.
Yeah, it's Ultraman.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to continue on, this is where it's funny, where he opens the fridge and cracks a beer open and asks Clark if he wants to watch a football game. He blows off his chores, wipes the beer onto like a curtain instead of a towel, and then Lex comes in. And
I love that move.
And Lex comes in, and Jonathan basically just like goes off on him and like tells him how much he hates the Luthers, and then says that he's going to take a nap, and that for Clark and Martha to do the rest of the work. And then
he tells Clark, "Yeah, why don't you just do my stuff, and I'll just take a nap."
And it was such a great little goofy scene to just let Schneider just kind of go off, but it was funny. Then, so day after...
Don't forget that when Lex and Stephen Hamilton or Joe Morton's character are talking, he mentions that the guy got into a car accident and someone
pulled him out of the truck. Yeah.
Lex immediately says, was it Clark Kent? Actually, no, it was his father, Jonathan Kent.
I thought that was actually a great scene of Lex being like, how is this guy everywhere? Like with
Clark? And I love how in the season 10 Booster Gold episode, they brought back while everyone else was sick of it for Clark in these early seasons of how he was getting everywhere. It was Clark who was acting that way towards Booster. It's just something it's one of the, it was, man, season 10 is so good. Aside from Darkseid.
Well, it's good and it's bad for varied reasons. Alright, so let's get back to the episode here. So next morning, Clark and Peter walk in. Clark tells Pete about all the weird behavior. This is when we get to see the subtlety dropped around Pete and Pete's issues with the Luthers. Because up until here, we've seen a lot of subtle cues to it, but like Pete outright kind of says how much he hates Lex because of what Lionel did to his family.
Yeah.
And this will continue to be a thing throughout the season and in this episode.
And this subplot comes back next season and has one of the best feel-good scenes I've seen on a superhero show.
Is that when Pete returns?
It's the episode where Hamilton comes back and he's like what's his name? Tony Todd's character in the series.
Okay.
Where his hand is sort of.
He's been like overexposed to the meteorites and is like dying basically.
Well, yeah, that and he's meteorite poisoning, and that episode is where Pete finds out that Clark is not from around here, and they have that awesome basketball game.
Okay, but that's after he had left the show, like after he had left.
No, this is season 2.
Okay. Oh, man, I never forget how long Pete stays around because it's really not that long, and like
it's only 3 seasons.
Okay, so I know like once he learns Clark's secret, it like completely changes his character, and that's why he ends up leaving.
Yeah, and then he comes back as
like a street racer.
Elongated. No, that was season 3.
Okay, maybe that's like right before he leaves.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he comes back because he's chewing like the meteorite gum.
Yeah, and he
kind of makes him goofy.
He becomes elongated man.
Yep. So to get back, we get our Chloe pops in, has a random poll for the newspaper because blah blah, and asks
Principal Kwan wants her to get her on the pulse of the school.
Yeah, so she asks anyone's deepest desires, and obviously since it's a high school, everyone's talking about fighting people or having sex.
The two, as I learned watching the Star Trek documentary Chaos on the Bridge, the 2 Fs, fighting and fornicating.
Yep. And the only person that defies this is Lana, who says she would like to climb a windmill because it has a great view of the Metropolis skyline.
Which shouldn't even be possible.
I've always thought of Smallville as like a suburb is not right, like something outside of a suburb to Metropolis. Like Metropolis would be like a day drive to like go there and back. Like 2 or 3 hours to get there and 2 or 3 hours back. They're definitely in my mind in the same vicinity.
Well, yeah, but I personally find the whole thing ludicrous. Like,
it absolutely is.
It makes no sense.
But you can see, I know, like from growing up in parts of Jersey, like that's about 40 minutes to an hour outside, without traffic to Manhattan. You could see not as good as it is in this show, but you can see parts of Manhattan from certain points of the town, especially if you go to like the shore. You just look across the water. So it's goofy and it's terrible green screen.
I thought it was a painting.
Oh, was it like a painting? Well, yeah, but I thought they green screened them onto like a backdrop. But maybe
Possibly.
You're right. It could have been like an old school like stage thing.
Yeah.
It was whatever it was. It was very fake looking. All right. So the next thing we get is back at the Kent farm. Jonathan continues to act strangely. Martha notes that he has a fever. Phone rings from the bank. They're turning down his loan application. So again, the subplot, Kent Farm is having issues.
And Jonathan smashes the phone against that one support beam that
Clark punched out.
Yeah.
They probably could afford the farm if they didn't have to pay for repairs for everything every day.
Yeah.
So Jonathan's driving erratically through town. Clark sees him. He's nearly hits a couple of people.
Yeah, that's the real sign of someone of being infected by this plant. You drive horribly.
Yeah. Jonathan gets out. He has a shotgun. They struggle. Jonathan shoots Clark in the chest. Obviously, does nothing. But we get to a POV of Jonathan, and everything's kind of pulsy and white, and then he blacks out. Clark takes him to the hospital, and
everyone sort of who becomes infected gets that same POV shot after doing some thrill, like with Jonathan, who was shooting a gun. With Lana, it was, I believe, a ball. Yeah,
when she fell off the window. I don't know if we get one for Pete, because I think he gets because of the...
He got Luke Cage by Clark.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because that's immediately what I thought, too. The tap on the head.
Yeah, it wasn't even an attack or a tap. It was a palm. Like
He just like palm smacks him in the forehead.
and he just simply falls down.
Yeah, I cannot wait
He doesn't
to bring.
fly. He doesn't fly away or fly back like in Luke Cage. He just simply falls back into a chair.
Yeah, well, that still happens like to a couple people in Luke Cage, but it's like, oh, here's some brain damage. Boop. Especially compared to what Clark does to Lex, but I cannot wait to bring that up in the next Phantom Zone. Another thing, they even in for a Marvel Netflix show that Smallville did first.
Yeah.
So we're at the hospital, same place as the James Beals guy. He just slipped into a coma. Jonathan has a high fever. Chloe and Lana that night then go to search the site of the accident. Chloe points out how big it is, and she starts taking photos. Lana kind of walks away. Chloe hears something, takes some pictures, and is looking for Lana. Lana says she just found something, but it's the stupid hula girl. But then the flower comes out of nowhere because it has a mind of its own, and the flower spits in her face. And then I guess from the moment that the flower hits you, you have no memory of it existing. It's like a roofie steroid, I don't even know, sex drug that it spits out. Because you're both angry and horny, and you're completely amnesia. You have no memory of anything from the second it hits you.
Yeah.
Because Chloe goes oh, what happened? She's like, nothing.
And then we see what happens to everyone else. The key thing, a sneeze.
Oh, I did not notice that. I noticed that she sneezed. I didn't notice that Jonathan sneezed, or that Pete sneezed. Or Pete was off camera, right? He lifts up the thing, and it falls, and then it cuts to Chloe. I guess we'll get there. We're pretty close to that anyway. So, cut from here, we're back in Hamilton's lab. Lex confronts him about his experiment. Lex shows him the book that he took out about a priest at the Morley settlement. It's a diary of a priest, and describes how the settlers went crazy and then everybody died, and he blamed it on a flower that they burned. Basically, we learned later as well that they burned him all, and this is exactly what Hamilton has resurrected. And Hamilton's like, no, that's just superstition, and Lex basically goes, okay, so then it's safe for me to lift up the glass. Hamilton stops him, and Lex says, gather all the plants up. I'm going to send them to my experts. We're going to find an antidote for Jonathan, which is interesting because, I guess this is still, I think this goes into, the, who Lex is at this point. Lex is trying to be, he is doing his best to be a good person. Or he is a good person at this point.
Yeah, he's trying to be...
Because he is trying to save Jonathan.
He's trying to save Jonathan. He's trying, near the end of the episode, he's trying to tell Pete that he can save everyone, but he gets called a liar.
Yeah,
and he even lie. He does lie though to Clark.
Yes, he lies to him several times, but it's almost like he doesn't. He's trying his best to be good, but there's still this dirtiness and him competing with his father kind of thing. It's almost like Clark and Lionel are the two things pulling Lex. And anytime he does something to that's in the Lionel world, the embarrassment of it or the shame of it makes him hide it from Clark. Which is interesting because it's in fact Clark kind of lying to him, that we see is always the issue. That if he would have told the truth in the beginning, maybe all of this would have been different type deal.
Yeah, that's the thing. I always wish that DC, DC and Marvel, Marvel had the what ifs, DC had Elseworlds. I would love to see a what if for the Smallville comics that were put out in 2003.
Oh, what if Lex knew the whole time?
Or what if Clark, after Pete finds out, Clark tells Lex?
It would be interesting because the two takes on it are that he accepts it and they kind of do whatever they can to make the world better, hence Utopia, or he tries to manipulate Clark and kind of turns him into a corporate Red Sun kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, technically we got that in season 10 with both Lionel when Lionel found Clark in the field and not Jonathan. And
yeah, that's where we get their version of Ultraman, right?
Yeah, and in the series finale, Lex talks about knowing Clark's secret before getting his mind wiped.
By a glove with black goo on it.
Yeah, by Tess.
Alright, we're now talking about an episode in season 10 and not this one for many reasons, because right now is where we get to the part of this episode that's in 2018 would be problematic, which is Lana, who the character is supposed to be about 15 or 16, shows up to school in her best posh spice outfit, her little black dress with not quite knee-high boots, but like some high boots, and doing her best sexy, I don't even know how to describe it, like, it's the total, like, just, like, sex pop thing that we get in, like, a bunch of stuff from this time period. And she kisses Whitney, and then she's, like, flirting with everybody. She touches a couple
No, she doesn't kiss Whitney. She tries to get him to go with her and blow off class.
Oh, okay.
And Whitney keeps saying that he has to, like, he has valid reasons. And Lana says, it's always excuses with you. Sometimes I think I'm in this relationship out of guilt. And then this whole like, she ends up breaking up with him and finds Clark. And that's when I thought this. If someone walked in with no context, they would have thought this was a porn thing.
Oh, totally. This was a very, like, late night Cinemax scene. They're in the pool house, which Smallville, like a small high school farming community, has. This giant pool. And she keeps telling Clark that she wants him to jump in. And then he's, like, looking at her, and she's talking, and then you just see him standing there, and, like, her dress hit him in the face. And then they cut back, and we do actually see her in her bra and panties.
Yeah.
It's not a thong, but it's like I only know one way to describe them, which is like, they're the tight shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like lacy, so they're kind of see-through. And again, this character is supposed to be 15 or 16. Clark is flabbergasted, and then I believe she jumps in the pool, and then comes out, and then he jumps in and comes up, and she's gone.
Yeah, and standing there in her place is Principal Kwan.
So then we cut to Clark telling Chloe, while in a new pair of clothes, about Lana's strange behavior. They guess that something happened to the site that they missed, because it's the only thing that connects Beals, Jonathan, and Lana. And then while Chloe can't figure it out because she's not affected, and then as she's going through her pictures, she sees that the person, or the thing she heard in the bushes, was Dr. Hamilton. So they decide to go and talk to him. Chloe goes to talk to Dr. Hamilton. He evades her questions, but she notices the book on the table, and he asks her what she was doing there.
Nicodemus diary.
Yeah. And he asks her what she was doing there, and she says, partying with my friends,
in response, back. She said that because she asked him if he saw her or heard anything, and he said probably kids partying. So she pretty much throws it back in his face.
Yep. So this is where we cut back and forth from like location to location a lot. So now it immediately cuts to the town. Lex is on the phone demanding results from his team for the flower, like for the antidote. Lana comes in, again, is all crazed, gives everyone the night off, tries to seduce Lex.
And at this person who is an adult.
Yeah, she's like, again, 15 or 16, and he's like 22.
Yeah.
So yes, lots of not legalities happening right here. But she steals his keys, takes his Porsche, and drives off to the windmill. Clark shows up as Lana's speeding away. He catches up to her. As she's climbing up, that's when she has the moment like you were talking about, because she only gets like halfway up.
Yeah, because it starts shaking and shows that it's not very sound structurally. She falls, Clark grabs her, or she lands in Clark's arms. She says Clark as if she's lucid. Then she goes through the Jonathan effect. And when she gets in, or when they get her there, Clark finds out from Martha that Jonathan slipped into a coma and Beals dead, right?
I think he had just died. He died when he's like about like a couple hours ahead of Jonathan in like symptoms. Maybe even like a full day.
Yeah.
So Lex pledges to Martha that he'll do everything he can to help Jonathan.
Yeah, the whole bringing in the best doctors from Metropolis.
I think this is also where we get the scene one of the scenes where like Clark is like looking through the glass like sad, and Lex is talking to him, and Clark basically goes, "Oh, it's not your fault." Kind of the same speech that Clark has begotten in a couple episodes about like the meteor freaks.
Yeah.
Where he has this like secret guilt. Alright, and again, cutting to another location, we're back at this school. I think they're at lunch. Chloe says she saw the Nicodemus diary at Dr. Hamilton's labs. She gives the whole breakdown of how like everything happened, like we already said, and they also burned down all the flowers, so there isn't one to like look for cure. But they found a paper. Pete found a paper that Hamilton wrote 6 years ago about using meteor rocks to irradiate dormant plant cells to bring them back from extinction. So they think this is what happened. And before Clark leaves, Chloe reveals that the person that checked out the diary was not Dr. Hamilton, but it was Lex, and that he had something to do with it. And then this is again where Pete gives him some crap about being friends with Lex.
Yeah, and how, or while Pete is away, but Chloe tells Clark that Pete is jealous of Clark and Lex, their friendship, because Clark and Pete aren't hanging out as much as they used to.
Yeah, and we then see again.
And it also shows that they really didn't give much to Pete in terms of the show.
Oh yeah, he has like nothing to do ever. He's the tag along character. Like
I'm pretty sure the reason Chloe was created is because in all the Superman origin stories, when he's young, it's him, Lana, and Pete.
Yes, she was completely created, but maybe the actor that played Pete didn't have the gravitas, or maybe they wanted to make the show a little bit more diverse. I'm sure they also wanted to make a love triangle, and you can't just have Lana. Again, going back, we also get a little bit of that in this episode, like our love pentagram. Because obviously we already got that Clark, Lana. We actually rolled over the one part. At some point, I think it's like the very beginning of the episode, Chloe's basically talking to Clark about maybe he should just give up on the Lana thing, otherwise he's going to miss out on like other chances at love.
Yeah.
And it's like the least subtle thing ever about obviously implying her.
Yeah, I think even Pete makes a comment about it.
Yeah. This is definitely like the whole who loves who gets all involved, because you have all our main players in that love, again, pentagram thing going on. So Clark goes and confronts Lex. I think they're outside the Talon, and Lex basically denies everything. He says he did take the book out, but because the land that his house is on is the land where all this went down, so he was trying to figure out if this had any, like, for safety reasons, completely BS's Clark.
To quote Happy Souls, he wanted just to know the lore of the land. So, that one was for you, Connor. You're not going to listen to this, but that was for you.
Yeah, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's it's an animated thing about Dark Souls 2.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've played any of the Dark Souls game, and that makes me a bad gamer.
They're so good.
I have the third one. It's sitting on my PlayStation 4, like, digital. Like, I've just never gotten to it. I have just too many things on there. Because currently I'm playing Lego Marvel's Avengers Superheroes 2. I just wanted to be, like, super nerdy and unlock, like, the 120 or 160 different characters in it.
Yeah, I'm still on Lego Avengers.
Oh, the movie one? Yeah, this is the one that came out after the movie.
Yeah, I know. Hunter and Eric keep talking about how good it is.
This is the one I'm playing right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like Secret Wars. It's like a battle world made by Kang. So you have, like, different cities, but it has, like, everybody. Well, except for there's basically nobody that Fox owns.
Yeah, no X-Men.
No
it's basically just the MCU.
Yes, the only character, there was like one or two characters that, like, I noticed weren't there. I can't remember right now which ones.
If I'm not mistaken, Greg Miller voices a character also.
Oh, there's, like, definitely a bunch of people that voice, like, some of the characters.
Yeah, because this whole thing went down, like, the voice actors were sort of, I don't want to say fill-ins, but it was because it was during the voice actors strike.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, we went over it on Video Game Hour when it was happening.
Yeah, since I've not been at GameStop, I've kind of fallen off of the whole gaming world for the most part. All right. Well, that was a good tangent. So back to the episode. Chloe, while this is going on with Clark and Lex, Chloe and Pete sneak into Hamilton's lab. Pete knocks over one of the jars that's covered in a tarp that's containing the flour. We hear a crash. Chloe sees it on the ground. Pete pops up out of nowhere and tells Chloe that she's beautiful. And that she ignores him because she only has eyes for Clark. Pete rants that Clark is probably hanging out with his new best friend Lex.
And then pulls his piece out.
Yeah,
and by piece, I mean gun.
Yeah, I think he finds it. It's just sitting on Hamilton's desk. Because it just, like, kind of comes out of nowhere. I guess it's just there.
It could have been Pete's.
Yeah,
You never know. And it's hard to tell with these types of episodes.
He tells Chloe to hand over her keys, which she does. Back at the hospital, this is when... So back at the hospital, this is when Beals is dead.
And when Jonathan is in the coma.
Yeah, he's still in the coma.
And things aren't looking good.
Yeah, Martha tells Clark of how they first met at Metropolis University, and Chloe goes there and instead of to the cops and tells Clark about Pete's being infected and him going after Lex. And again, cut to another, like, this is like a very jumping back and forth from, like, location to location. So we jump over.
This is actually the opposite, the literal opposite of a bottle episode.
Oh, yeah. Because you're in a location for, like, maybe 5 lines.
Yeah, and then jump.
It's very erratic.
Yeah.
And it's all, like, the same. It's the hospital. It's, like, the Kent's house, the hospital, Luther Mansion, the Talon, Hamilton's lab, and then the windmill and the high school. So it's, like, 7 or 8 locations. And just, like, flying between them. Because we're at Hamilton's lab 3 times. We're at the Luther Mansion, like, 3 times. So here's the 3rd time we're at the Luther Mansion. So Clark shows up. Before Clark shows up, Hamilton shows up with a manuscript that he found in a museum containing a Native American cure for the Nicodemus toxin.
And he kind of drops the fact that he may have stolen it.
Yes.
By him saying, they're probably going to want this back. And also the fact that he said it was collecting dust.
So yeah, well, one, how did he get back there? But I guess that goes to the fact that Hamilton's kind of
he's not a morally good person.
No. He's very much a Dr. Frankenstein character where he cares about his work and nothing gets in between that.
Yeah.
I would say he's a little bit worse than, like, morally neutral. Like, because of the background of him getting fired.
Yeah.
So he's not evil, but he's, like, definitely not a good person. So Lex plans to send it to his team in Metropolis. Pete walks in. This is the yelling back and forth. Pete, somehow, he has a gun, so he gets a hold of the book, and it gets, like, thrown into the fire somehow, because Lex has a fireplace going. Hamilton gets in between Lex and Pete, and kind of, I don't know, like, runs at Pete, kind of, and smacks the gun out of his hand.
Well, if I remember correctly, Hamilton took the book and tried to get to escape with it. Pete shoots him. It gets out of his hands, goes behind him into the fire, and they're trying to talk. And Lex is trying to talk Pete down about that if that book is destroyed, everyone else is going to die. And
Okay.
He has to calm down, and Hamilton grabs a fire poker.
Yeah, as I say, Pete walks in, he shoots Hamilton, then the book goes into the fire. Lex goes to grab the book, and then Hamilton hits Pete to make him drop the gun, and Lex throws the book to Hamilton. Hamilton runs out as Pete recovers, gets the gun, and fires 4 shots at Hamilton, but doesn't hit anything. And then, like, 2 seconds later, Clark enters the room from a different doorway, so he never sees Hamilton.
But Pete tells him that Hamilton was there.
Yes, and Clark...
In which we get Clark actually acting.
Yeah, I find it to be like a 50-50. So I feel like he, like, is kind of... He knows what he has to do, so, like, his plan... He does have a plan, but I think he's also trying to see... He's trying to call Lex's bluff simultaneously. Because no matter what, he has the situation under control. Like, nothing's going to happen. So, but he basically goes up to Lex, being pissed, and slams the shit out of him against, like, a pillar, like, on the wall.
I think, doesn't he grab him and just, like, push, he shoves him against the wall, hits the back of his head.
Yeah, he wrecks Lex. Like, he kind of, he grabs him by, like, I feel like his shoulders almost, maybe a little bit lower, like, on his tricep area. He just kind of, like, throws him up against the wall, and he, like, whiplashes his head into it, and Lex just, like, collapses on the ground.
And then Clark speed, or in slow-mo.
Yeah, slow-mo speed.
Smacks the gun out of Pete's hands, and he's like, "How'd you do that?" And then he gets caged, and palm caged. And
he gets palm smacked in the forehead.
Yeah. I really wish Bring the Ruckus was playing.
Okay, and then so basically Lex is like, huh? And kind of gets up and sees that Pete's on the chair. Clark helps him to his feet and says that it was all an act to stop Pete. And basically, Clark asks if Hamilton was really there. Lex says, what do you think happened? Again, being not technically lying, but being evasive. And then he says, man, what did they feed you on that farm?
Yeah.
And again, this is probably the longest we ever stay in one place. Because now we cut back to the hospital. Jonathan wakes up. He has no memory of anything. Doctors in the Metropolis found a cure from a manuscript, like we already know. Pete and Lana are also recovering. Chloe goes to question Dr. Hamilton, and we go back to Hamilton's lab, and it's empty. And now we go back to Luther Mansion, where Hamilton is there, and Lex informs him that he destroyed all of his laboratory equipment and moved all of his experiments to Cadmus Labs outside of Metropolis, where he can keep a closer eye on him. Basically, at first, Hamilton thinks that he's done, but Lex goes, no, you're doing with the work I want. You just need a little bit more supervision, because...
Yeah, and he says he's going to hide him there.
Yes. And then we cut to our final scene, back to the windmill where Clark and Lana out there, and we see the Metropolis skyline, and Lana says that, like, oh, she had to apologize to Whitney and Lex. I think she says Whitney and Lex, right?
Yeah, and she asks if she did anything embarrassing to Clark.
And he just looks at her and, like, with his charming Boy Scout smile, and then that's our end of the episode.
Well, no, doesn't he say I liked what I saw?
No. She asks him. She said, like, oh, like, and I wore this, like, dress or whatever, and then he goes, like, oh, I like it, like, I like the way that you look. Then she asks him if she did. That's, like, what prompts her to ask if she said or did anything that she should apologize for. And he just kind of gives her, like, a smirky look. And, like, no, but you have to apologize, but something definitely went down.
Yeah, it reminded me of the scene in season 1 of Flash, where Caitlin gets drunk and Barry has to take her home.
Yes.
And he just speeds her into her pajamas, and she's like, did you take a look? And Barry says no, and she says, it's fine, you're a good guy, you're allowed to look. Back when The Flash was actually a good show.
Yeah, alright, so is there anything else you want to talk about in this episode? I have a couple fun little things.
What's your stuff?
So one, which gets back to what we were talking about earlier, the designer for everything said that he made Metropolis too big. As Al Go in the last shot, and they consider Metropolis to be about a 3-hour drive from Smallville, even though they rarely adhere to this.
Yeah, because the episode where Clark throws the party at his house, his parents are going to, the Kents are going to Metropolis, and they said that it would take them like a day to get there. Yeah.
So it's definitely, like, weird. It's kind of how I always thought it. What the guy's saying, like, it's a trip you can do in a day, but, like, you have to, like, spend your whole day there. Like, you're leaving early in the morning and you're getting back late at night. The other thing is that basically a lot of this episode is taken from, like, the original Superman comics, Death of Jonathan Kent. So in the original, was that be like the 30s or the 20s, the Silver Age version? Jonathan Kent dies from a fever plague that no one has had in 100 years, and Clark finds out about it by reading a diary.
It could have been the Superboy comics.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. It's that, like, first...
Because that's where the Kents were first. Well, or that's when Clark was a teenager, or that's where this is based on.
Yeah, it makes sense, because in the original Superman, I don't think Jonathan's alive until they go and do the kind of prequel series, the Superboy series. So yeah, I do think that you're right on that. They also take a direct line, or it's a paraphrased line from the original Superman movie. So in this,
is it about the Clark being made of steel?
No. It's when he's, like, in the hospital talking to Martha, and he says, "With all my abilities, there's nothing I can do." And in the Superman movie, he says, "With all my powers, I couldn't save him." So it's pretty much the same thing. But that's always what I like about how the Jonathan Kent death, even again when they actually do it in the show, that's how it should be.
Yeah, not a tornado.
Yeah, well, not something that Clark can save Jonathan from. It should be, like, it's to prove that he can't save everyone. Like, he can't do anything about diseases or anything else.
It may be dark. Well, I'm about to say may is probably dark, but true considering the backstory of of Superman. It would have been, in Man of Steel, it would have been easier if Jonathan was shot or even just has a heart attack, because one of the two is how Jerry Siegel's father actually died.
Oh, yes. There's a lot of people that do that, because a lot of people write stuff that has happened to them in their life into their stories.
Because Jerry Siegel's father died in a holdup, or in a robbery. He was the person who was his store was being robbed, and he was held at gunpoint. He had a heart attack.
Oh, wow. It reminds me of, I think it's Paul Dini did something similar, where he was robbed, I think, at gunpoint, and then he wrote a comic of the exact
Yeah.
situation him in it, but I think Batman saves him.
Well, no, it's I'm blanking on the book or the name of the graphic novel, but
he was definitely called Genie, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I can't remember. Like, it's like one of the superheroes. I thought it was Batman
it is Batman, and he's
because I think someone breaks into his house and robs him.
no,
It's like
no, he's walking home from a date with a woman who probably he says probably won't even who was probably like using him or something.
Okay, because I remember he talked about. I think he talked about this. He was on a bunch of Batman and Batmans early on in that podcast. And I know he talked about it because I remember him saying he was like really, really injured.
Yeah.
I only have one other thing, which is the actor that played James Beale appears in 2 other episodes in the series as 2 different characters. Which is a lot of these kind of shows that are almost like procedural-ish, like because that's like a goof on Law and Order. Like a bunch of actors have appeared on the show like 5 times as different characters, and sometimes they even like decide to write them in as siblings. All right, so I guess we can go through our MVPs and LVPs and favorite scene and least favorite. Did you have anything specific, or I could go?
For me, it was that my MVP was Another Tool because the way she performed during her and Jonathan's first meeting, like you can tell that she was really dedicated on it, on like.
Oh yeah, okay. I wasn't sure you mean. So yeah, when her and Jonathan first met in college, or like kind of can't remember the phrase you used. But yeah, heard that story was great, and she performed it great. I guess my MVP.
Okay, the book was you were talking about was Dark Knight: A True Batman Story.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Paul Dini and Eduardo Riso. The art is really good.
Yeah, did Dini draw it?
No, Dini wrote it. Eduardo Riso drew it.
Okay, okay.
It's a
Oh yeah, Dini. I'm sorry, I was getting mixed up between what role Dini and Bruce Timm had for the animated series. Bruce Timm drew everything, right?
Yeah, like
Okay.
the cover of the book is how Dini looked after, like where he's bandaged up, his face is messed up, and there's the Joker behind him doing a like a double horns thing.
Okay. I feel like they put the actual picture of him in like the back of the book or something.
Yeah, it is. I actually wrote a piece on it for losar@wordpress.com. It is by far one of the best true story things I've ever written, or not written. True story things I've ever read.
Yeah, it definitely has like the realism and the fact that it actually happened to the writer all comes through. To get back to our goofy episode, though, my favorite scene and also my MVP would be Jonathan. Him being, to use what Clark used, like Alpha Jonathan was goddamn hilarious, and I think stole the whole episode for me. If I ignore one other scene that High School Boo really liked, which
it was full honest.
Yeah, but like that's also the scene that like is completely actually. I think her scene at the Talon was the most unnecessary. I get the scene at the pool for part of it to kind of further her and Clark thing. The scene at the Talon was just unnecessary. It was just to get her the keys to Lex's car. Like she could have just taken another car.
Yeah, it was only a plot device.
Yeah. But Jonathan, like, being, like, both horny and, like, drinking a beer and just being obnoxious and then wanting to go take a nap was just goddamn hilarious.
My LVP probably be... Now I know. The actor who played Beals.
Oh, because him yelling on the phone?
Yeah, he was just... I know he was supposed to be under the influence of the Nicodemus, but he was chewing a little too hard on the scenery.
Yeah, he was at an 11 or 12. He was, what's his name from, like, the second episode? The coach from Wonder Years?
Oh,
Dan Lauria. Yeah, he was that big. I feel like eventually we should come up with a scale of how much someone's overacting on a Lauria scale. If you're at a 10, you're burning up.
Yeah,
so he was at like an 8 on the Lauria scale. Because in that episode, I definitely felt Lauria was bringing so much energy that things would actually light on fire around him. This guy wasn't that. He was just being like an exaggerated version of a dick, like an asshole, like road rage. So it was bad and over the top, but it wasn't like insane. Like he was not a cartoon level crazy. All right, was there anything else you wanted to talk about on this episode or for this episode?
Nah.
Okay, yeah, because there's a lot of little things that kind of lead to bigger things, but mostly this episode's kind of the only important stuff is all the stuff with Hamilton. Otherwise, a lot of the other things are just kind of throwaways and teenage love pentagrams. Because we basically got to learn Pete a little bit more why Pete doesn't like Lex, the love stuff, and then the real important stuff is the Lex and Hamilton stuff, and Lionel trying to get some information from what Lex is researching. We can move on to our preview for the next episode, which is Stray.
We'll finally get to the Superman theme.
Yes. So this is an episode where we get to see kind of what Clark would be like if he had a little brother. We get our first real psychic powers in the show. I would say Hug is kind of pseudo-psychic, like it's a different thing. Because you almost like zombify people, and they're kind of... You can suggest things to them when this is like kind of real, like he can read people's minds. So we can take a look at the trailer right now.
On the WB's New Tuesday, an all-new Smallville.
Are you saying he has amnesia?
A friendship unforeseen.
You know, he thinks you're his big brother.
I can tell you about Lana. Want to know her secret?
A mind game.
What if he found out I did bad things?
Every thought becomes a powerful weapon.
What are you doing down here?
An all-new Smallville.
All right, this is definitely an episode I remember because I remember the kids.
Also the song.
Yes.
The song's fucking perfect. And after I first saw this episode, I immediately went to iTunes, bought the song, because this was during my angsty period in high school, about 8 years ago.
I'm sorry, I was reading. I did really like this episode. It was really good. Stray. I'm sorry, I was just reading ahead to the episode, and I kind of want to watch it soon because there's so many awesome things in here. But yeah, there's a lot of subplots for the season and for the future in this episode, which is pretty awesome.
There's also a lot of use of the wind machine.
Oh my god, they love the wind machines in these shows.
Because of the end of the episode with Clark's hair. They just set it just to full blast.
Yep. Alright, I guess if there's nothing else, we can go through bugs.
Yeah.
So
don't forget...
I guess, do you want to know when this will be?
Sure.
So this will be the 3rd week of August.
Hopefully we'll have another episode of the comics. Still don't have a name for it. Hunter was talking about maybe Tales from the Long Box or something like that.
That's a good name.
Yeah, I think it was taken though, so we have to find something else. Hopefully, by the time this is released, we'll have at least the test episode, which is the ranking of Robins.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to do that episode this Saturday. I don't know what sounds better, ranking of Robins or like a Robin Roundtable.
A Round Robin Roundtable?
Yeah. I might actually like doing something with the word roundtable might be a good title for that show. And I am always available for whatever you need me. Did you have anything else or?
Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at comicsboy. Daredevil Yellow just got in, so I should be posting some panels from that. And to my surprise, because eBay, it actually came here in good condition.
Yeah, you guys got some good things. I got my new mic. Sorry, and I just lost my voice. You catch me on the Phantom Zone stuff every once in a while, or a lot, depending on my... Oh my god, sorry. You can catch me on the Phantom Zone in the Phantom Zone group.
Yeah, join the group.
If you haven't already, Instagram and Twitter is Lou A. Gonzalez. I pretty much am not on Twitter, just on Instagram and Facebook. And we will be getting close to the release of Iron Fist when this comes out. Season 2.
Didn't think it was possible.
Oh, I thought it was possible. I'm just... Based on Luke Cage, I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, I actually started watching Luke Cage season 2.
Oh, good.
As soon as I saw Ron Cephas Jones, I immediately stopped, went back to This Is Us.
Okay.
Because-
Well, he's just so you know, he's really not in Cage that much. Probably
I know-
because he
I
was
know.
filming This Is Us.
Yeah, and in This Is Us, as Arlen put it, I'm trying to get him to watch it. He's like, it's too real, man. It's too real. I'm like, that's the point.
It is and it's not. It's a little much at times, I would say. Like, there's like a real lot going on. And I don't think it's a bad show for us to talk to on this, since one of the 3 stars of that show came from Smallville.
Yeah.
Which is bananas, bonkers, whatever attitude you want to go. Is basically the guy who is a side character who becomes a co-star is now one of the co-stars on the biggest show in the world, at least critically acclaimed wise. And there's only one of the 3 main characters who has not done anything comic wise, which is the sister. Because the other guy was the dad in Black Panther, Killmonger's dad. And he's in Predators as well.
He's in Predators. He was in Marshall.
He was in that really bad John Wick knockoff that just came out.
He was also on Supernatural.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Sterling K. Brown.
Yeah, he's a great actor. He's my favorite part. There are times in that show he's my favorite part. But the Justin Hartley character, I think, is the most realistic of the 3.
Yeah, did you listen to the episode of, or you listened to Mike Rosenbaum's podcast with
Yes.
Hartley, right?
Mhm.
When Justin Hartley told Mike Rosenbaum that when he first read the script, or a friend of his told him, "Hey, so and so wrote you into like in a fiction in a fictional story or show," and ironically, that's the person whose Hartley is Milo Ventimiglia.
Yeah, no. That's who he thought it was until he got to his character that he does play in the show. I think is
No.
what he says.
No, he was discussing Jack and Rebecca Pearson.
Okay, I heard it, or I interpreted it differently because I thought he said when he first read the script or started reading, he thought, oh, he means me as Jack. He's like, yeah, I'm very much like this. And then when he got to, I don't remember.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, when he gets to his actual character, he was like, oh no, this is who we meant. Because the guy's he was an actor on a big show, but then doesn't want to be that character because it's kind of got him typecast, and he tries to do other stuff and it keeps failing. Then he has like a divorce, like it's literally like everything that he actually wants in his life.
Yeah, and people, I forgot what exactly it was, like what interview it was. Oh wait, now I remember. It was Lana with Seth Meyers. People who watch Smallville ask him, "Hey, did you stop acting or something?"
Oh yeah, but I do know he jumped on. I think he talked about it. He jumped back on. He went back to soaps for a long time.
Yeah,
And the only other thing I remember him as, he was in an episode of Castle with Nathan
he
Fillion.
was also on an episode of Chuck.
Oh really?
Yeah, his brother was Peter Stormare, ironically.
Huh. Yeah. Oh, I'm not sure. Just like the last thing before I have to go. Did you see that Kristen Kirk actually has a new show on the CW?
Yeah, I think either you told me about this prior on when we were doing an After Dark, or someone else did, but I am not surprised.
Yeah, she looks exactly the same because she's only like 36 years old compared to everybody else in the show. Like who looks much. Rosenbaum doesn't look that old, but oh my god, I'm blanking on his name that plays Clark.
Tom Welling.
Tom Welling looks like
He looks like a giant.
Well, he is gigantic. Like he looks so much. Like I don't know. Maybe they just made him look that way when he did Lucifer. But like he is goddamn ginormous. Like he's a brick house.
Yeah, in the episode with in season 10, the episode with Connor, like with Superboy, just the way Clark looks, he looks like a damn mountain.
Yeah, because he's huge. That kid though is like really small because he was in a a terrible show my wife watched on Freeform that was about like deaf kids with Leah Thompson.
He also, I got pissed when I heard about it. Do you remember a show called Hellcats?
Yeah, the cheerleading show.
No. It was a show about, I think, football, cheerleading, that stuff.
Yeah. That's what I meant. It was like yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it's on like CWC. You can watch like old episodes of it.
Yeah, he was the EP of that show.
Who was?
Tom Welling.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I found out, and I was like, God damn it.
Well, he's done some other things. Like, he did a couple of movies, and then he did, before he got onto Lucifer, the only other thing I remember him doing in front of the camera was that really bad Kevin Costner football movie, where if you're a person that's into football, it gets made fun of so much. It's called Draft Day, because it is the most unrealistic, dumbest concept for a movie ever. And Welling plays like the older quarterback on the team that the owner wants to get rid of and draft another quarterback. And the entire movie hinges on the fact that the quarterback is secretly a dick because nobody went to his birthday party from his team, and that's how you know he's a dick. So if you ever like anything that when they have like drafts, you're like, well, a bunch of like podcasts or things that like anytime someone brings up, well, how many did the teammates go to his birthday? Because they have to be like more than 3, otherwise you know that he's not a good leader. Yeah, it's a ridiculous movie with Kevin Costner, Tom Welling. Oh man, who was Captain Stacy in Amazing Spider-Man?
Oh, Dennis Leary?
Yeah, he's the coach. It's absolutely preposterous movie because it's like a movie where there's like 15 different trades made by one team. Like they trade away their first round pick and they get it back in another first round pick by magic. It's the most preposterous garbage ever. But Welling is funny in it. It's kind of like a bad version of what's the Brad Pitt baseball movie?
Oh, don't talk trash about Moneyball. I love that movie.
No, Moneyball's awesome. This is like a garbage version of that. Because like basically you remember Chris Pratt's character?
Yeah, Scott Hatterberg.
Yes. So that's basically Tom Welling's character, except that he's not funny. Like he's not supposed to be funny. He's just like this kind of older, like kind of journeyman quarterback. But it's like the same concept, like the way he talks to him to like save him. It's just like I don't know. It's like a copy and paste of that movie, except football, and all the acting is really bad. Or like the plot is terrible, and the acting is very phoned in by everyone because no one's getting paid enough.
Also, there's no Aaron Sorkin.
Yes. And that's why the one movie won an Oscar and the other movie is a joke. But all right, I think that can bring us to a close on strangely one of our longer episodes and on us covering one of the goofiest episodes. That's because we went off on like 55 tangents. But I am Lou Gonzalez.
I'm Alan Muir, and this podcast stands for truth, justice, and the American way.
Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.
Yes, do that.
And